Hey guys, welcome back and thanks for tuning in. Today we're talking about 5 quality fixed blade knives for around 50 bucks. This guy right here is the Tops Tex Creek 6.9, not around 50 bucks, it's actually in the $125 range. So why am I showing you this knife at the beginning of the video? Well, because I want to create a full picture for you. I want you to know what you are getting for around 50 bucks and some of what you're not gonna get for around 50 bucks. This guy is a fantastic knife. 1095 steel, made in USA, great coating on it, great micarta scales on it, extremely good ergonomics, really good size for everything I like to do. Excellent leather sheath, very well put together, very well finished off. Is it worth 125 bucks? In my opinion, yeah, it's worth it. But you may not want to spend that amount of money. So setting this guy aside, let's talk about some of the things you can get for around 50 bucks. And let's begin with this one right here. This is a Gerber Strong Arm. The Strong Arm is a very good knife for the money. And right now, one of the reasons I want to put this one out there first is because Blade HQ has got a sale going for this one where you can get it for about $54. And that's after you log in. So you won't see that price if you just hop onto the website. You've got to log in, create your own account or whatever, and then you will see the price. And so 55 bucks for a fantastic multi-purpose knife here. And speaking of the sheath real quick, we see that it's got this sort of dangler right there. So you attach that to your belt. Obviously, you've got kind of this hard polymer plastic material there that it snaps into very easily. You can buckle that down like so. But if I'm not mistaken, every version of it actually comes with a handful of things. This kind of goes on there, makes that into a side belt kind of a holder. This is another way of attaching to the belt, I believe. I haven't played with that stuff in such a long time. I don't remember what all of it does, to be honest. But fantastic sheath. Just if you're just using it as this dangler, for sure, that works really, really well. And then the knife itself is awesome. Now the steel, you're kind of giving up a little bit here because that 1095 that I showed you on the Tops knife, you don't get that on this one. You get 420 HC. It's a very good steel. And Kershaw does a great job with it. Buck does a great job with it. A lot of folks do a really good job with 420 HC, and Gerber's done a really good job with it here. You see that it's partly serrated, only this version. There are several other versions, or a handful anyway. There's the non-serrated version, there's an all black version, and they kind of have those in each color. But this one with that sort of coyote tan, rubberized handle, which feels really nice. And of course that big, broad blade on it. Blade length, just under 5 inches, if I remember right, and just a good shape to it. Very good sort of multi-purpose survival / tactical blade shape to it. It feels very much like a K-bar or an old style Bowie in a way, or at least as far as utility is concerned. You see a nice sharp pommel on there with a hole for creating a lanyard. And then as far as the handle shape, it's nearly symmetrical, not quite though, just enough to make sure that you know which way is front and back. But as far as the sheath, that is ambidextrous. You can put it in either way. It doesn't care. So righties, lefties, you're all going to be able to use this sheath effectively. So again, around 55 bucks, this is a steal of a knife. If you're looking for a knife that will be a really good performer in camping situations, hiking situations, potential survival situations, or you want a nice tactical knife for not a lot of money, this Gerber Strong Arm is a really good one to go to. Yeah, there are better ones that you can spend a lot more money on, but at 55 bucks, this is an extraordinary value and I highly recommend it. Let's move on to the next knife. The Cold Steel SRK, another fantastic knife for the money. This one comes in at around 42, 43 bucks. So I said around 50 bucks, I meant around 50 bucks. This one's a fair bit underneath 50 bucks. So you get so much for your money with the SRK. And this variety is the SK5 variety. And so that's kind of what's on the market nowadays. There used to be, I think, an AUS 8 version. There was this one right here. I've had this for a long time. This is the Carbon V or Carbon 5, depending on who you are and how you want to say it. That's the Carbon V version of the blade. And you can see some interesting differences there, actually. in the shape of it. Well, mainly the ricasso, which is this unsharpened portion of the blade stock. The blade shape is virtually identical. It's got a kind of a different amount of grind here as far as from the stock down. And this is actually hollow ground versus flat ground. So there are some differences for sure, but it's, you know, still performing about exactly the same. So SK5 is a good steel. Is it the same as Carbon V? You can debate that. But yeah, and Cold Steel's also got, I think, a Sanmai 3 version of it, which is this layered steel where you've got one type in the middle and then other types on the outside. That's a more expensive, considerably more expensive version of the knife. And I think, honestly, you can get this SK5 and you will have all the utility you need and all the functionality you need from this knife without getting into that more expensive steel. That's my opinion. You can debate it in the comments. But again, we've got about a 6-inch blade, so this is a bit larger than either of the two I've shown you up to this point. It might be the largest one I'm going to show you on camera today. And for the money, again, 43 bucks or so, you just get a ton of knife. Nice soft craton handle that's easy to hold on to. It's a little, as far as the balance point, it's a little blade heavy, so the balance point is somewhere around the ricasso there. So, you know, forward of the quillion, which means that it makes it a really good chopper. So if you wanted to sort of hold it back here a little bit and whack, 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 it's a really good chopper in that way, lightweight sort of chopper. And effective. But as far as, you know, holding on to it and just kind of doing standard work, you'll want to sort of pay attention to it because it will have a tendency to want to do this and kind of tip out of your hand. So that's not true of all the knives I'm showing you, and that's kind of an important thing to me, may not be so much to you. I really am kind of like a big, I don't know, balance is kind of an important thing to me. So anyway, but that's the Cold Steel SRK, fantastic knife and just a great value as well. So let's get this one off the stage and show you the next guy. The Mora Bushcraft Black, or just Mora knife, or whatever you want to call it. This comes in a handful of different varieties, and the Bushcraft knife from Mora comes in a number of different colors and steels. So this is the carbon, and then there's also stainless. It comes in different finishes, it comes in different colors, and they all very much vary in price. Now, the exact one that I'm showing you right here, you typically can't find this for under almost 70 bucks, but you get this knife with a different type of sheath where it doesn't have the diamond sharpener on it and it doesn't have the ferro rod on there. You get that other version, you're looking at spending about 55 bucks. Okay, and again, you can spend even less if you get the stainless version in different colors. So it's kind of, when I say it's around 50, I'm being very generous. It's way, way around 50. But you can get one just around 50 bucks. So the carbon version of the Bushcraft Black is one of my favorite just general use knives. The way that handle feels, it's nice. It's a nice kind of a hard rubber, but it feels really soft and just extremely ergonomic in your hand. So nice to use. Then it's got this sort of accented sort of Ranger forest green or whatever sort of polymer underneath it, which just looks really cool and kind of creates that additional structure for the handle. As far as the tang, I'm not certain how far down the tang goes. I think it's somewhere around 3/4. If I can find information on that, I'll post it here. But it holds up really well to all kinds of use. That carbon steel is very tough and stays very sharp. It's got that fantastic Scandinavian grind on it, which, man, it's one of my favorite types of grinds. It might be my favorite type of grind for general use, for carving, for whittling, for bushcrafty type stuff. It's really, really, really good. And so I'm a big, big fan of all Mora knives, but when you get up to sort of the Bushcraft Black and that whole Bushcraft range of their knives, you spend a little bit more money because some of the Moras you can get for as low as like 10, 15 bucks. We've got a very sharp spine on here, which is great for throwing sparks off that ferro rod. And again, just a really well put together a knife. So if you want something that's in this size range, again about 4 1/4 inches, you're going to be extremely happy with the Mora Bushcraft Black. I have been. I really love this knife, and again, I highly recommend it. Let's move on to the next guy. Now here's one I don't see a lot of marketing on, but I do see a few guys talking about it sometimes. It's the Real Steel Bushcraft. This knife comes in D2 steel, with that full Scandinavian grind on it, nice thick stock to it, a little bit of a jimping up there, and a great G10 handle. If you just look at that and see the contours, you see what kind of ergonomic potential that has, right? And so this thing feels really good in hand. It's on the small side for sure. We can compare that to the Tex Creek 69 that we looked at earlier, as far as size, blade, and so forth. It's definitely below it as far as quality, and some of the evidence of that is in the tip right there, which is somewhat almost rounded, maybe a little bit overdone. But that's a reflection of the price. Once again, we're trying to keep things around $50. Let's say that's how much you have to spend. I'm trying to give you an idea of what you can get for that amount of money. And you can get a lot with the Real Steel Bushcraft. So again, did a standalone video on this and really enjoyed using it. Felt really good about everything it could do at the time, and still do. It's still one of my favorites. Now again, good sheath on it, all Kydex. That does not come with the tech lock. That's something I threw on there to make it a little bit more useful for me. But there are a number of different ways that you can use that sheath as it is. So I think it's a very good package for about 50 bucks. And yeah, I highly recommend the Real Steel Bushcraft. Moving on to the next guy. And last but not least, depending on where you find it, you'll spend between low 40s and mid 50s for the Condorpterosaur. This guy finally released from the folks over at Condor. Joe Flowers, designer of this particular knife, might be mad at me for how I ground that blade down, because I did a little bit of work on that after I stupidly chipped the belly, dropped it. I was doing some photography with it, guys. I happened to be around rocks, managing cameras and so forth. It happens, okay? So got a little chip there in the blade on a rock, but sort of reprofiled, reworked that edge for myself, and it is now hair-popping, wicked, amazing sharp. So the Condorpterosaur, 1095 steel is what it's advertised. Really cool finish on it, and great sort of hard plastic handle. Feels nice in hand. So it's got a good grip to it. You can see that the pommel comes all the way out, so it's a full tang, which makes for some good smashing into things, maybe pounding some stakes into the ground, stuff like that. Very capable knife, nice sharp spine on it, so if you want to throw sparks off of that, that'll be no problem. And again, a good Scandi grind from the factory. Also just a cool blade shape to it. So that's, it's a little more towards the side of wanting to be pointed, not so much wanting to have a big wide belly on it like the Bushcraft from Real Steel that I showed you a minute ago. Otherwise, really nice knife. Really, really good for the money. Again, either low 40s or mid 50s, depending on where you're picking it up. And the use that I've put it through, I'm very happy with the Condorpterosaur. Sheath on it. Super cool. They spent a lot of time making the sheath right, and it works really good. So putting the knife down in there, you see that clicks to about that point and stays in very nicely, doesn't shake out, but it's pretty easy to withdraw as well. It's got a little bit of a retention somewhere in there, kind of locking it in place. I can feel it there actually. Right there kind of holds it in place. But one of the coolest things is completely ambidextrous. Doesn't look like it because of the angle here, but no, you flip that over and pop it on the other side. And look at this. This whole thing, this whole belt sheath part, or the belt attachment part, just flips around. So you can pop it around to that side and boom, now you're carrying it on the opposite side. Isn't that cool? So they spent a good amount of time on the sheath, good amount of time on the knife, making it right. Saw this at SHOT Show and talking with Joe Flowers about it, was really impressed, had to get one in hand. So thanks to Joe for sending this one out for testing. Anyway, guys, those are the 5 knives. Let's take a second and line them all up. Setting the sheath aside, we'll start here with the Gerber Strong Arm, which I showed you there at the beginning. Cold Steel SRK, you can see that, how it stacks up to that one there. And then moving on to the Bushcraft Black, fantastic knife for the money, as I said before. The Real Steel Bushcraft, and lastly, the Condorpterosaur. So guys, there are a lot of really good knives you can get in this price range. These are some of my favorites and some of the ones that I've enjoyed using for sure. A lot of good reasons to stick into this price range. I mean, it's a pretty good budget, where you're not buying something, flea market quality, but you're actually spending a fair bit of money on something that's going to last and serve you for a long time. As I said before, you can go much more expensive, and you do get more quality, in my opinion, by going a bit more expensive with certain knives. But when you want to stick to around 50 bucks, there's a lot there, and these are just a few of them. I'm Lay Boy Scout. Thank you all for watching. See you next time.